The glittering facade of celebrity culture has always promised us an escape into a world where everything, from fashion to family, appears completely flawless. We gaze at the glossy magazine covers, scroll through the meticulously curated social media feeds, and watch the heartwarming red carpet interviews, often forgetting that beneath the designer clothing and the carefully orchestrated public relations campaigns lies the exact same raw, unpredictable, and chaotic reality that the rest of us navigate every single day. For decades, the public has held public figures to an almost impossible standard, expecting them to balance high-powered careers with the complex, emotionally taxing journey of raising children under the constant, unforgiving glare of the spotlight. When a prominent star decides to pull back the heavy velvet curtain of fame to reveal the unvarnished truth of their domestic life, the world pauses to look, finding comfort in the realization that even the most successful individuals struggle with the very same everyday challenges that define the human experience. This vulnerability creates a powerful bridge between the extraordinary and the ordinary, reminding us that no amount of wealth or acclaim can shield a person from the hilarious, frustrating, and deeply humbling moments that come with guiding a young mind through the early stages of life. In today's hyper-connected digital landscape, this bridge has transformed into a massive public forum where every single parenting decision, casual anecdote, and emotional confession is analyzed, debated, and picked apart by millions of self-proclaimed experts. The moment a parent steps forward to share a slice of their reality, they are no longer just telling a story. They are inadvertently inviting a global audience to pass judgment on their character, their methods, and their children. Before we dive deeper into the fascinating and highly divisive conversation that has recently taken the internet by storm, sparking thousands of heated discussions across social media platforms, we invite you to join our growing community by subscribing to our channel, ensuring you never miss our deep dives into the cultural moments that define our times. The public reaction to celebrity parenting is a fascinating mirror reflecting our own societal anxieties, changing values, and deeply ingrained beliefs about discipline, love, and boundary setting. When a beloved cultural icon known for her vibrant energy, unfiltered honesty, and magnetic charm shared a seemingly light-hearted series of encounters with her toddler, she could hardly have predicted that her words would ignite a fierce debate about the boundaries of modern parenting, the expectations placed on mothers, and the invisible rules that govern how we raise the next generation. To truly understand the weight of the storm that is currently brewing, one must first examine the massive generational shift that has taken place in the way we view the art and science of raising children. For generations, the prevailing wisdom regarding discipline was rooted in strict authority, unquestioned obedience, and immediate correction, where children were expected to be seen and not heard, and any deviation from this standard was met with swift, often harsh consequences. However, the contemporary landscape has witnessed a profound revolution, spearheaded by a philosophy known widely as gentle parenting, which prioritizes empathy, open communication, emotional validation, and collaborative problem-solving over traditional fear-based compliance. While this modern approach has been celebrated by developmental experts for fostering high emotional intelligence and strong parent-child bonds, it has also introduced an unprecedented level of pressure and confusion for parents trying to break cycles of generational trauma while simultaneously establishing necessary structure. This delicate balancing act often leaves well-meaning parents feeling as though they are walking a perpetual tightrope, constantly questioning whether they are being too soft, too rigid, or simply failing to meet the impossible demands of a society that expects them to work as if they do not have children, and parent as if they do not work. It is within this high-stakes, emotionally charged environment that our story unfolds, focusing on a multi-talented powerhouse who has captured the hearts of audiences worldwide since her days as a breakout child star. Having spent nearly her entire life navigating the entertainment industry with an infectious, larger-than-life personality and an unmatched work ethic, she recently embarked on her most challenging and rewarding role to date: motherhood. Welcoming her first child into the world just a few years ago, she has consistently used her platform to offer her fans an incredibly authentic, hilarious, and deeply relatable look into her new life. Refusing to sugarcoat the messy realities of raising a young boy in an era dominated by screens, public scrutiny, and evolving social norms, her journey represents the ultimate test of the modern parenting philosophy, as she strives to raise an independent, expressive individual while grappling with the daily chaos of toddlerhood and the constant internal battle of how to implement discipline without crushing her child's vibrant spirit. What began as a routine, light-hearted promotional interview soon spiraled into a massive cultural touchpoint when she candidly described her daily interactions with her 3-year-old son, painting a vivid picture of a household where the traditional power dynamics between parent and child are being actively challenged. By sharing a series of highly amusing yet polarizing anecdotes about her son's blunt honesty and her own struggle to maintain her composure, she unwittingly stepped into a digital minefield. The resulting online discourse has exposed a massive rift between those who champion her relatable, patient stance and those who warn that a lack of immediate strict boundaries could lead to long-term behavioral issues. As we prepare to dissect the specific, eye-opening comments that set the internet ablaze, we must ask ourselves where the line truly lies between allowing a child to express their authentic voice and failing to establish the authority necessary to guide them through a world that is rarely gentle. The stage is now set, the players are in position, and the digital world is eagerly waiting to dissect every word of a story that touches on the very core of how we choose to shape the future. The unfolding narrative of modern motherhood took a dramatic turn when the world-renowned actress and media personality sat down for a candid conversation that would ultimately reverberate across the entire digital landscape. Speaking with a prominent cultural publication, she exuded the signature warmth and unfiltered charisma that have made her a beloved household name for over 2 decades. The discussion initially centered around the profound transformation that occurs when an individual steps into the role of a parent, a shift that she described with visible emotion and immense pride. Reflecting on the birth of her son in early 2023 with her former partner, she did not hold back in expressing the overwhelming love that has completely redefined her existence over the past 3 years. She spoke of her little boy as an absolute force of nature, a radiant presence who brought an entirely new sense of purpose and boundless joy into her fast-paced life. In her own animated words, she declared that he was the absolute bomb, a child so uniquely cool and full of life that she found herself utterly captivated by his expanding personality. Noting that he had fundamentally altered her worldview and become the literal center of her universe, however, as anyone who has ever spent a single afternoon with a toddler knows all too well, the beautiful poetry of parental devotion quickly collides with the gritty, unpredictable reality of daily behavior. With the refreshing honesty that has come to define her public persona, she abruptly shifted gears to address the side of parenting that is rarely captured in glossy family photo shoots or celebratory social media updates. When pressed to share the genuine struggles, frustrations, and raw moments of friction that test her patience on a daily basis, she let out a knowing laugh and revealed that her otherwise delightful 3-year-old child possessed a strikingly sharp, unfiltered streak that she playfully described as mean as hell. This sudden pivot from glowing adoration to hilarious, unvarnished truth set the stage for a series of specific domestic anecdotes that would soon become the focal point of an intense global debate regarding boundaries, respect, and child-rearing. The first major anecdote she recounted involved an everyday scenario that millions of busy mothers can easily relate to, trying to carve out a brief moment for personal wellness amidst the endless demands of managing a household. She explained that she had just returned home from a strenuous, sweat-inducing Pilates workout, looking forward to a moment's peace and a chance to refresh herself. Instead, she was immediately greeted by her young son, who looked at her with the absolute devastating candor that only a toddler can muster. Without a shred of hesitation or diplomatic filter, the little boy looked directly at his mother and informed her in no uncertain terms that she stank. Taken aback by the sheer bluntness of the declaration, she recalled asking for clarification, only for her son to double down on his initial assessment, repeating the critique with absolute confidence. This initial exchange, while humorous on the surface, served as an eye-opening preview of the uniquely challenging personality traits she is currently trying to navigate. The narrative of domestic chaos deepened significantly as she described how the encounter progressed into the family bathroom, a space that many parents of toddlers find is almost impossible to keep private. Seeking refuge from the critique and a desperate chance to wash away the post-workout sweat, she stepped into the shower, only to find herself closely pursued by her relentless 3-year-old. Rather than respecting the physical boundary of the bathroom door, the young boy continuously peeked through the opening, tracking his mother's movements with an intense, curious gaze. Because of his close proximity to the streaming water, the inevitable happened, and a few stray droplets splashed onto his face. Instantly, the toddler transformed from the accuser into the victim, loudly complaining to his mother that she was actively throwing water directly on him. This unexpected accusation prompted an immediate, exasperated response from the actress, who found herself standing in the shower attempting to hold a rational, structured debate with a child who had not even reached kindergarten. She recounted how she explicitly reminded him that she had already instructed his little ass to exit the room, yet he had consciously chosen to intrude upon her privacy. In her rapid-fire recount of the conversation, she highlighted the utter absurdity of the situation, pointing out the profound irony that he had first marched into the space to inform her that she was stinky, followed her into the very place meant to remedy that exact issue, and was now blaming her for getting him wet simply because he refused to close the door and grant his mother a basic level of privacy. The climax of this hilarious yet deeply telling domestic saga occurred after she finally stepped out of the shower, fully expecting the bizarre confrontation to be over. Instead, she was met with a stern, reprimanding lecture from her toddler, who was determined to have the absolute final word on the matter. Looking up at his mother, the 3-year-old expressed his deep disapproval of the entire sequence of events, stating with an air of immense gravity that he really did not appreciate how she had been throwing water on him, reiterating that the root cause of the entire problem was the fact that she had been stinking in the first place. He concluded his lecture by solemnly informing her that her behavior was really bad and that she should never have allowed herself to be stinking to begin with, effectively reversing the traditional roles of parent and child. Reflecting on the sheer audacity of her son's behavior during the interview, the actress' open-mouthed expression revealed the genuine mix of shock, amusement, and profound bewilderment that defines her daily life, exclaiming to the interviewer to ask what on earth was wrong with him, and concluding that he was completely off the chain. She opened up about the intense internal conflict that this behavior triggers within her, pointing out the incredibly unique challenge of modern parenting, where traditional physical discipline is no longer viewed as an acceptable or constructive path forward. She noted that while a parent might feel an immediate flash of frustration, the ultimate goal of her generation is to actively transcend the reactive, fear-based methods of the past, striving to be significantly better and more emotionally conscious than the generations that came before them. This noble aspiration, however, comes with an immense emotional tax, as she candidly questioned how exactly one is supposed to successfully execute the highly praised, gentle parenting philosophy when confronted with such relentless, defiant behavior from a 3-year-old. She concluded her thoughts with a deeply relatable admission that struck a chord with parents everywhere, stating that it is incredibly hard to keep it all together when you are constantly trying to balance emotional validation with the critical need to establish parental authority. The moment these raw, unfiltered reflections hit the digital space, they acted as a massive catalyst, instantly transforming a simple celebrity interview into an explosive, polarizing cultural debate that would dominate social media platforms for days to come. The moment those unfiltered reflections on the realities of modern motherhood found their way onto the public timelines of major social media platforms, the digital landscape erupted into an intense, multi-layered debate. What had started as a humorous, self-deprecating story about a mother trying to shower after a workout quickly became a cultural lightning rod, exposing deep-seated societal divides over how children should be raised in the modern era. On one side of this virtual arena, a wave of highly critical observers reacted with immediate alarm, viewing the actress's patient and amused response to her toddler as a dangerous sign of permissive parenting. To these critics, allowing a 3-year-old to repeatedly tell his mother that she stinks, follow her into the bathroom, and then lecture her on her behavior without receiving an immediate, stern reprimand was an open invitation to future behavioral issues. Online commentators quickly urged her to start establishing firm boundaries and correcting the behavior immediately, warning that if she laughed it off now, her son would grow up believing that speaking to his mother with such disrespect was entirely acceptable. Others chimed in with similar urgency, insisting that she needed to nip this behavior in the bud as soon as possible before the child reached an age where such defiance becomes much harder to manage. For this camp of critics, The situation went far beyond a simple, funny domestic anecdote. It represented a broader, more systemic issue with contemporary parenting styles that prioritize a child's self-expression over respect for parental authority. Some social media users offered direct, practical advice, suggesting that instead of engaging in a long-winded debate with a toddler, she should have simply used her stern motherly voice to command him to shut the door, or closed it herself to teach him the fundamental concept of privacy. The conversation grew even more heated when some observers began to generalize the situation, pointing to a perceived trend among mothers of boys. These critics argued that some parents tend to be far too lenient with their sons, acting as pushovers and failing to teach them valuable lessons about boundaries, empathy, and respect for women, ultimately urging the actress to grow a backbone and step firmly into her role as the authority figure in charge. However, as the online discourse continued to swell, a powerful counter-narrative emerged from parents, educators, and developmental advocates who rushed to the actress's defense. To this group, the harsh criticism leveled against her was not only unfair but completely detached from the developmental reality of a 3-year-old child. They argued that her son's blunt and seemingly defiant behavior was entirely normal for his age group, representing a standard phase of cognitive growth where young children are actively testing their independence, exploring cause and effect, and learning how to articulate their observations without any social filters. Defensive voices on social media pointed out that when a toddler speaks in such a direct, hurtful manner, it is rarely an indication of poor parenting or a reflection of a child's fundamentally flawed character. Rather, it is simply a natural call to action for a parent to patiently teach empathy and kindness over time. They emphasized that gentle parenting is not about allowing a child to run wild without consequences, but rather about staying calm in the heat of the moment so that the parent can guide the child through their big emotions without resorting to fear, physical discipline, or explosive anger. This intense division highlights the profound cultural tightrope that the modern generation of parents must walk every single day. The actress herself perfectly captured this struggle when she spoke about the immense difficulty of trying to be better than the generation that came before, actively working to break old cycles of fear-based discipline while simultaneously trying to figure out how to successfully implement the gentle parenting philosophy. For many who grew up in households where a parent's word was absolute law and any sign of disrespect was met with swift, physical, or emotional punishment, the transition to a more empathetic approach is incredibly challenging. It requires an extraordinary amount of emotional regulation, patience, and self-reflection to stand calmly in a bathroom while a toddler shouts accusations at you, choosing to explain and guide rather than react in anger. The public's polarized reaction to her story shows just how much collective anxiety still exists around this transition, as society grapples with the fear of raising undisciplined children on one hand and the desire to raise emotionally healthy, expressive individuals on other. Ultimately, the journey of this charismatic star and her young son, Leotis, serves as a vivid reminder that there is no perfect one-size-fits-all blueprint for raising a human being. The journey of motherhood is a messy, evolving process filled with daily negotiations, unexpected challenges, and plenty of humbling moments that keep even the most famous parents grounded. By choosing to share these raw, unpolished moments with her global audience, the actress has done something incredibly valuable. She has opened up a space for parents to feel seen in their struggles, showing that even with all the resources in the world, the daily chaos of toddlerhood remains a universal equalizer. It is a journey of trial and error, where the goals are not perfection but connection, safety, and a constant effort to do better than the day before. As the public debate continues to echo across the internet, one thing remains absolutely clear. The bond between this devoted mother and her spirited son is built on a foundation of profound love, mutual learning, and a willingness to face the beautiful, chaotic, and sometimes stinky reality of growing up together.